Good morning, everyone. If I may have your attention, please, and if you would kindly take your seats. My name is Mary Robison. I'm the CEO of the Palm Beach Civic Association. Thank you and good morning. And we welcome each of you to the Palm Beach Civic Association's first program of the new season, our Welcome Back Community Forum. And I'd like to begin by expressing our appreciation to the Palm Beach Public School Chamber Music Group for this morning's lovely performance. And in addition to these young musicians from the 4th and 5th grades at Palm Beach Public, we are also pleased to welcome an outstanding group of 8th grade students from the Palm Beach Day Academy. And each of these students is both a member and an officer of the National Junior Honor Society at PBDA. And would everyone please stand while these members of the next generation from Palm Beach Public and from Palm Beach Day Academy come forward to lead us through the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, and justice for all. To our next generation, we thank you, students, so very much. And in addition to Town Council President Bobbie, Lindsay, and Bobbie, boy, do we thank you for all that you do and continue to do for our community. We are honored today to have a distinguished panel of town leaders who will make today's presentation. And we are delighted to have our community leaders and elected officials with us in the audience. And we thank all of you for everything that you do for our community. And when I call your names, will you kindly stand for recognition from our audience? We have the Honorable Mayor Danielle Moore, who is a great leader and friend to us all. Welcome, Mayor. We have Town Council President Pro Tem Lou Crampton. We have Town Council Member Bridget Moran. I'm not sure. Ted, thank you. All right. Good morning, Ted. We also have Town Council Member Ted Cooney. And we also have our very special and well-known Chief of Police, Chief Nick Caristo, is with us this morning. Good morning, Chief. And I'd like to invite our Mayor, Danielle Moore, to come forward and say a few welcoming words to you.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the beginning of the season. I'm so honored to be here in person. The last couple of years, I haven't been able to welcome you in person. What a great turnout. So I want to start by not only welcoming you back, but giving you a quick review of some of the things that happened in the summer that you may have missed, but you should not miss. If you live anywhere near Midtown, you saw all of the utility poles being removed in the last several weeks, and that is a huge shout out to Public Works and Patricia and her team. I really think that is one of the things that when residents return for the season, it will be most noticeable to them. It really is amazing. Of course, my block is almost the last block, so I'll be waiting 2 more years for my poles to be pulled, Patricia, unless you come up with some miracle on ice or something. I think some of you, Ted and I walked the Royal Poinciana median the other day. It's almost finished, so another shout out to Public Works and thank the Garden Club for getting that done. We didn't think it would be all done, but it's almost finished. It's going to be beautiful for our new season. So thank you, Patricia and the Garden Club. And as I cruise to the north end, because I wander up and down these streets on a regular basis, I think we'll all see some fresh paving all over the north end and along the beachfront, Midtown Beach. And FDOT is doing the project from the Colony south to the traffic circle. It's going to be beautiful too. I know there was some pain and suffering over the summer, but to the people who called me to complain about the road adjustments, I'm going to call them, there's no better time to do it than July, August, and September. So as much as I apologize, we're certainly not going to try and do it in season, like spring break maybe. Everybody, when you have an extra 100,000 people, maybe we could not do it then. But your electeds are sorry that it has to be done, but infrastructure is important to the quality of life on this island. So I didn't intend to go off on a tangent, so I apologize for that. But welcome. Your elected officials are here to serve you. And Mary already acknowledged everyone. Also, I didn't see Julie Araskog here, but she is also one of your elected officials, so please feel free to reach out to us. We are here to serve you. And my last item would be, please sign up for Town Alerts. That is the way that you will get the best information coming out from the town of Palm Beach. You can go to the town's website and sign up. I'm sure everybody in this room is signed up, but it's an important way for us to share information with you all. Again, thank you and welcome. Have a great season, and I look forward to supporting the Civic Association and attending all of your wonderful events. Thank you, Michael, and I've already thanked my colleagues. So anyway, have a great day.
Thank you, Mayor. The Palm Beach Civic Association was founded in 1944 by a small group of civic leaders who were resolved to protect and enhance the quality of life in this very special town. And today, in our 82nd year of service to the island, we remain steadfast in our mission of service to the Palm Beach community. And everything we do, quite frankly, is accomplished through the loyal support of our directors, our members, and our community who stay informed and engaged on these issues that directly impact the life in our town. And I would urge anyone that here today in our audience that is not a Civic Association member to please consider joining us, because your opinion matters. It matters to us greatly. We have 15 standing committees that represent each and every quality part of life in Palm Beach. So we encourage you to join if you have not already. And my colleagues today in this beautiful Mandel Rec Center can certainly assist if you have an interest in joining. Our Welcome Back Community Forum is sponsored by Third Federal Savings and Loan. And the company is led by Mark Stefanski, its president, chairman, and CEO, whose parents actually founded Third Federal in Cleveland, Ohio in 1938. I believe they founded it 6 years before the Civic Association was founded. And I've had the pleasure of meeting Mark this morning. Mark, will you join me and say a few words? Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to speak in front of a group where you're going to listen to me. I have 7 children and 7 grandchildren, and after our first born, no one listened to me at home, so this is great. Thanks for being here, and it's our pleasure, Third Federal's and the Stefanski family's pleasure to sponsor the very first of the year. I'll tell you, it's all about people. I recently wrote a book. It's called People First, and this is what our community is all about, right? It's putting people first, and the mayor has put all of us in front of her, a lot of her personal objectives and goals, and these folks up here, they're going to take a beating, I think, later on with questions, but they're here for all of us, putting people first, and that is so special. And just like to end with one quick story. There were 3 boys, and whose mother was getting a little bit up in age, and she couldn't see very well, and her car was a little rickety, and her house was old, and so the one son said, "Mom, I'm going to buy you a new car." So she said, "Great." The other son said, "Well, I'm going to buy you a new house." She said, "Wow, that's terrific." The third son said, well, Mom, you're having trouble seeing, and I know you like to get educated, so I'm going to buy you this parrot. And the parrot will actually be able to read things and then recite it to you so you can, keep up with current events. So a few months go by, and all these things happen, and the one son says, well, Mom, how do you like the car? She goes, well, it's too fast. I got rid of it. And the other son said, well, what about the house? She goes, well, I love you, but the house was too big. And she said, but I got to tell you something. The chicken I cooked was terrific. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of our Civic Association members and directors, we'd like to present a gift to Mark Stefanski for thanking him for sponsoring today's program.
Well, thank you. Say one more thing. And one more thing. I've sold 4 books already, so if you buy one, that would help me out.
We thank Mark and we thank Third Federal Savings and Loan for today's program. And it is now my pleasure, and it certainly is an honor for me to introduce you to our chairman, the Palm Beach Civic Association chairman, Michael Pusillo, who is leading our way and caring deeply about our community. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Chairman Pusillo.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Welcome back, everybody. It's the pleasure of the Civic Association to sponsor this Welcome Back forum. We have a very good cast up here who are going to enlighten us on a lot of issues that are going to be front and center before the town this year. We're particularly pleased to have my former colleague, Bobbie Lindsay, our town council president, with us today. She's going to talk about water. Bobbie is completing her 10th year on the town council. And congratulations, and thank you so much, Bobbie, for serving 10 years. Believe me, that's a lot of work and a long time, and we really appreciate it. So, as I say, we've got a number of topics today we're going to be talking about. The first one is water. As you may recall, last year the Civic Association started its Welcome Back, really focused exclusively on water at the Welcome Back Forum. The issue continues to percolate along, and Bobbie's going to give us an update on where that stands. The second topic we're going to talk about is a topic on everybody's mind, traffic. As you know, Civic Association sponsored a forum last winter dedicated just to traffic. Kirk, Blouin, our town manager, is going to bring us up to date on some developments there. And there is some positive news to report. I'm not going to steal your thunder, Kirk, but you do have some good news, and I think it'll be well received. Undergrounding. As the mayor said, we're nearing the finish line. Patricia Strayer, our town engineer, is going to give us an update on where we stand on that. As we are approaching the ending, I experienced it personally the last 2 days. I've had directional boring in front of my house, so I've managed to watch the process, and it's quite a process. And we're also going to talk a little bit about easements and how you get back those easements once the utilities behind your house are no longer there. There's a process involved. We've got some forms that our Civic Association staff has, and Patricia's going to talk a little bit about that. The lagoon. There have been some significant developments under state law on what municipalities can and cannot do with respect to these moorings that just appear and stay there forever and ever. There are some statutory changes that enable municipalities to take action on their own. The town of Palm Beach has taken advantage of that, and we're pleased to have the town attorney, Joanne O'Connor, here today to talk a little bit about that. This is an issue that Civic Association's Intercoastal Committee has been looking at for a long time, and I'm pleased that there's some significant progress there. The budget, the millage rate, we just received our tax bills. Deputy Town Manager Bob Miracle is going to talk a little bit about the budget that was passed over the summer, the millage rate, and the finances generally for the town. And finally, code changes. The issue of code reform and code changes has been an issue front and center at the Town Council for a number of years now. I'm pleased to report there's been some progress made. There have been some changes to the code, to the zoning code, which affect primarily residential construction, and we're pleased to have both Wayne Bergman and Jamie Murphy from the Planning, Zoning, and Building Department here talk about those changes. So that's our lineup. We will have questions at the end of the session. As always, as is our practice, we'll have Civic Association staff members with cards. If you have a question that you'd like to ask, please fill out a card and give it to one of our staff members. And I would suggest that as we go through these various topics, if you have a question with respect to that topic, while it's fresh in your mind, write it up and give it to one of our staff members. They'll give it to me, and I'll ask the questions, and hopefully we'll have some time for some questions at the end of the presentation. So thank you very much. Thank you for being here. And with that, I'll turn it over to our Town Council President, Bobbie Lindsay.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you again to Palm Beach Civic Association, Michael and your colleagues, for kicking off another season with such an informative program for our residents and visitors. It's really much appreciated, honestly, so thanks. I'm going to start with my remarks where we left off last year at this same forum, and spend a few minutes just bringing us up to date on the selection process and progress for Palm Beach's future drinking water supply. In the interest of time, I may read some of my comments, but I want to set a good pace so we're not here for too long. Last November at this forum, the town announced 2 finalists that we selected in 2023 who were interested in supplying potable water to Palm Beach, Lake Worth Beach, and our existing provider, West Palm Beach. You may recall that the town actually uses 10 million gallons of treated water daily. This is something we require. Lake Worth Beach currently has a water treatment system that utilizes reverse osmosis technology for about 1/3 of its treated water. The other 2/3 of their water is traditionally treated water and is blended with the RO water and then distributed to its ratepayers. Lake Worth Beach has permits to build 10 additional wells in the Florida aquifer. Once built and operational, an upgraded Lake Worth Beach facility could be configured with the capacity and distribution infrastructure to serve Lake Worth Beach, Palm Beach, and South Palm Beach with full RO system. Recently, Lake Worth Beach has showed renewed interest to also consider allowing Palm Beach to tap into its permitted wells and to construct its own 10 million gallon per day RO plant next to the Lake Worth Beach facility. So there's kind of two ways to go with Lake Worth. West Palm Beach currently operates its water treatment plant without the benefits of membrane technology. It has also recently obtained permits to utilize the Floridan aquifer as an additional water source to the surface water supply that it uses today. As mentioned, I think last season, both finalists were advised that the mayor and town council are seeking a long-term water supplier that provides a full membrane technology water treatment system. Our staff and elected officials believe that clean, good-tasting water, free of both regulated and unregulated contaminants, is an important public safety issue. Only membrane technology can provide a reliably contaminant-free system. Both Lake Worth Beach and West Palm Beach continue to evolve in their responses to the town's request for proposal, or RFP for short. The town requested that both finalists provide a full membrane technology proposal with as quick a timeline as possible. We don't see something that comes in the next 30 years. A lot of us won't be around then. We'd like it as soon as possible. So our town's intent overall is to join a state-of-the-art membrane technology franchise similar or just like the franchises that Jupiter Island, Hope Sound, Jupiter, Palm Beach Gardens, Juno Beach, Lake Park, and North Palm Beach have all enjoyed for many years. With explosive population growth in West Palm Beach, we're hopeful that many of the existing and new residents and businesses will demand a membrane technology water system from their city. In regard to our timeline, the town must notify West Palm Beach's existing provider of its intentions by 2027, and a new deal has to be selected with whomever we select, or if it's West Palm Beach, by 2029. So the town remains hopeful to review and consider competitive proposals for membrane technology systems this season from both our finalists. Thank you. Michael?
Thank you, Bobbie. You can stay there if you want, Kirk, or you want to... Kirk, want to enlighten us on some developments on traffic, and you can stay there if you want.
For those of you who do not know me, my name is Kirk Blouin, and I am the town manager for the town of Palm Beach. And I was fortunate enough today to draw the short straw, and I got to talk about a topic that brings so much joy to people, traffic. But with that said, I give you our full commitment. That's the mayor, the council, members of staff. The staff we engage daily in attempts to mitigate the traffic in the field. In some cases, we can make operational decisions that we can make quickly. In other cases, we need cooperation and collaboration and some policy making, either from the council or from our local partners, either Palm Beach County, West Palm Beach, state, FDOT, federal partners, Army Corps, Secret Service, United States Coast Guard. We're fully engaged. The mayor and I have engaged with the external partners regularly, trying to encourage them to accommodate us. In some cases, we're limited. We just have a voice, and we have a loud voice and a persuasion to try to get them to adjust their policy. But the bridges and many of the roads in town are state roads where we lack complete control. But I'll give you our commitment. We're going to do everything we can to mitigate it. I'm going to give you some positive news, but I want to give you some reality. We're going to experience gridlock in the community because here's our core challenges. Primarily what it boils down to, we have a volume and capacity issue. Volume meaning the number of cars on our roadways each day, and capacity is the limited amount of roadways. Our town wasn't designed to handle this level of activity, but and these are statistics here that are compounding factors rather, that are influencing the traffic here in town of Palm Beach and the gridlock. Tourism, #1 in the country, Palm Beach County. And where do you think these people are coming if they're going to be in town for a conference or a vacation? I mean, you have to drive through the town of Palm Beach. We cannot prevent them from driving through the town of Palm Beach, and there's legal reasons for that. But we had just under 10 million visitors last year, and that's set a record. I think the year previous to that set a record as well. We've had a significant amount of growth in Palm Beach County, an explosion of growth, particularly in the past 5 years. A lot of wealth has moved to Palm Beach County, and they do patronize the town of Palm Beach for the amenities that exist here. Recent traffic counts that they received, I think about March of last year from our consultant and engineer, we experienced just under 60,000 cars a day on the 3 bridges, the Flagler Bridge, Royal Park Bridge, and the Southern Bridge. What was even more shocking, in the center of town here, we experienced 100% year-over-year increase from the previous year of Royal Palm Way, 100% increase on Royal Poinciana Way, and a 200% increase on North County Road. Road closures, obviously we're experiencing those issues as well. When President Trump is here in town, we did have some success, the mayor and staff and council. Initially, the road was closed permanently. Again, with no forewarning, they closed the road. We objected. We objected loudly. We understood, or we questioned why it would need to be closed. But they do. There is a precedence. The law supports the road closure, but we challenged why it was closed when he wasn't in residence. They did relent and accommodate to keep that road open when he's not in at Mar-a-Lago. Bridge openings. So we live on an island. There's scheduled bridge openings, which generally occur twice every hour. And then there's unscheduled bridge openings. And what I'm referring to here is the barge openings. So there's a project, Bonefish Cove, where really, in reality, any barge that's operating has the right on demand to open the bridge. That's what the federal maritime law is that exists. Again, Mayor lobbied hard with Lois Frankel and the Coast Guard and the Army Corps of Engineers and Palm Beach County to make changes, and I'll get into those changes in just a minute. And then the high level of construction activity that we experienced here in town. We had a great migration, new people moving in town, an incredible amount of construction that's occurred, record-breaking for year after year, as Mr. Bergman will tell you, here in the town of Palm Beach. All those things compounded pose great challenges for the elected officials and for staff members. So here's a little bit of good news that I get to share with you. So the United States Coast Guard is in control of the bridge openings. The FDOT owns the bridges, and they staff the bridges. We watch the bridge logs and make sure they're operating within their policy, but United States Coast Guard is in control of the openings. They decide what the schedule is for the bridges. With some consistent communication with them, they did agree to limit the openings to once per hour from 7:30 to 9 each day and from 4 to 6 each day, as opposed to 2 openings. That helps because every time that bridge raises, you can see within minutes that traffic backs up for miles. We've all been stuck in it. It takes 15, 20 minutes, maybe sometimes for it to clear out, depending on the volume of traffic on the road. When President Trump is in residence, we had additional considerations given to us by United States Coast Guard. When the security zone is enacted, from 7:30 to 9, it's limited to 1 bridge opening, and from 2:15 to 6, it's limited to 1 bridge opening. Army Corps has given us some very good news as it relates to the barges and the Bonefish Cove project. Even though that project is behind schedule and is continuing, starting on November 17th, there'll be no barge traffic on that project. That doesn't mean if you see another barge, again, on demand, they're required to open it. But it relates to the Bonefish Cove project, and that's where we're getting most of the openings, the unscheduled ones. Monday through Friday is when we experience most of the traffic. That will not be occurring Monday through Friday. They'll work on Saturdays and holidays and after season, but that's great news. It'll help mitigate the traffic to a good degree. And we'll keep coordinating with our federal partners on all these issues. Some of the things that we have local control on, one thing that the council adopted last year. So there's 3 ways that you can control traffic. That is according to our consultants. You can reduce the demand, which we're really limited in reducing the demand because we have state roads, and there's laws that prohibit that. You could increase capacity. We're limited because we have limited roadway space. We did talk about removing some parking space to create a little bit of efficiency, but it's very limited in the capacity that we can create here in town. Or spread the demand. So we experience with spreading the demand, and in some cases with staff members, we could do that, where we don't affect our service levels negatively in any way. But for construction, the construction industry and the landscape industry, and those are the 2 industries that we regulate by ordinance for service vehicles, they expanded the hours. Again, there's trade-offs here, and it's not always popular. So to try to get them out of the rush hour, the council, on a limited basis, moved the starting time up by half an hour and extended the quitting time by half an hour. That got them outside of that peak rush hour. That allowed them to come in at 7. They could do quiet work from 7:30 to 8:30 and then start work at 8:30 as opposed to 9 o'clock and stay until 5:30. We did that with a good amount of success. Last season, very few complaints. There's some objected on theory because they didn't want to wake up. But there's a trade-off. Do you want to try to mitigate traffic, or can you deal with some inconvenience as it relates to noise? So we're going to bring that to the council again, because that did expire on May 15th, and generally we don't have the traffic issues in the summertime. And we'll be discussing that at the Tuesday, November council meeting. Town serving concept is still under review for restaurants and bars. And we always have a construction management agreement, and that's for the larger projects, commercial projects, multifamily projects, projects that are consistently violating our ordinances. We can require by ordinance for them to shuttle in employees. We do have some businesses that are already doing that. So that's good. Again, these are, when you have 60,000 cars a day, they're incremental improvements, but every little bit helps, and that's what we're scratching at. And we're looking for any opportunity we can to implement. Optimization. We do have artificial intelligence in our traffic lights. They communicate with each other, and in real time, they'll make adjustments. Some people criticize the AI and the lights, but they work. They're working the way they're designed to work. They're criticizing them because when the road is at full capacity, and there's nothing AI can do to fix that. So you're going to be stuck in gridlock, but also they may see some traffic or lights ahead of them, and they think, well, why isn't the lights being adjusted by AI? The reason why is because they're communicating in a network. If in that network they adjust one light, it's going to cause a problem down on another intersection that they don't have visible. They cannot see. But the lights are working. We're constantly checking them. They're doing what they're designed to do. The good news in Palm Beach County in 2026, they're adopting AI in some of their intersections as well, because we're impacted by what's happening in the county and in West Palm Beach. It's all one larger network. When we can't get off the island, many times we'll go to West Palm Beach because it's, say the Middle Bridge. There's a wall-to-wall traffic. There's no place for the cars to go, and backs it up onto the island. In some cases, they're working outside of their permit, and then we'll call DOT to make that adjustment. So we're trying to keep our eyes on everything, make adjustments where we can. Palm Beach Day Academy, again, small, incremental. We moved the pickup down the street westward, try to get the main arteries, County Road, to get them off of County Road and onto Seaview, to clear up that main artery. Same concept with Barton, Brazilian, and Bradley Place. Barton and Brazilian, we made it one way. Again, keep those main arteries flowing. It's worked. It's definitely improved the traffic flow. We're making some adjustments on Bradley Place as well. We have a traffic light going in at Bradley Place. The light, or the arm, the mast, rather, that won't be coming in until like February or March. We're not going to install that during rush hour, but that will help in that intersection. We'll be able to make that road two-way again. It'll relieve some of the problems that we're having on County Road, because previously, when it was two-way, they were blocking the intersection, so the cars couldn't travel north, and sometimes they were getting in the way of cars traveling south. So when we get that light and we get the artificial intelligence, it should optimize the traffic flow there and make it a little more efficient. Paid parking. It's not about the revenue. It is a legitimate, strategic traffic control tool. It's a way to manage your parking, obviously, but also helps manage traffic, because when cars, and there's studies on this, are circling the block looking for a spot, it creates about 30% more traffic in that area. If we create turnover, and that's one of the objectives of paid parking, one is there'll be parking for our residents and customers, and it'll also help relieve some of the unnecessary traffic flow in that area. And I'll remind everyone, if you're a resident, you can get a sticker and you can park in town and use paid parking spots 2 hours for free. Construction and utility coordination. Staff has met, and then we came up with a strategy to move all of our utility work off the main arteries. Again, those are the ones we're focusing on, and moving on the east and west streets during the season. So we did a lot of work over the summertime. There's still a little work that we're finishing up this week, and then they should be off the main arteries. DOT gave us a present. We've had a lot of dialogue with them. Many of it wasn't pleasant with some of their projects in roadway design, but they did agree, at least in the center here at town, not in the south end where we're not experiencing the same traffic issues, to pause the work until after the end of the season. There'll still be some work occurring. I want to make that clear. There's going to be times when there's emergencies in the right-of-way, pipe breaks, all sorts of things. We're going to have to perform that work in the right-of-way, but the services that we contract out for, we try to either pause it, or we contract for the weekend or after hours, like the mayor and council agreed to last year. We paid extra, but we did the work at night, and we did not disturb the neighbors. Again, these are small, but these are operational adjustments. And again, there's always some trade-offs. We've had really limited complaints. We pick up the trash off the main arteries in the commercial areas. We pick them up before the rush hour, so the trucks aren't blocking traffic on Wall Point CIA Way or Royal Palm Way. We get in, we pick up the trash before that traffic starts coming in. Hydrants, we don't test them during the day or block the roads anymore. We adjust, and there's many other things we've done at staff level to move them outside and off our roads during the peak hours. The employee shuttle program is still in development. We're looking into that and trying to establish what interest exists there. And we did increase some staffing with our parking control enforcement officers and increase the staffing in the police department. None of these things are going to solve the traffic issue, but they'll help assist. We're going to have the officers in the intersections that can control it by the traffic light. They create right turn only lanes during the peak traffic hours to help the flow of traffic. You'll see them again out here during the season when there's traffic congestion and gridlock. The extra staffing will help a little bit. Continue to communicate and be transparent in all our decision making. We'll, like the mayor said, sign up for the town alerts. We're going to continue to push out news releases. We do have 12 new message boards that are going around the county, essentially on 95 and some of these main arteries, leading into town to tell them to avoid the area or advising them of the roadblock. We do have live bridge cams that you can go on our website and observe. And we have a dedicated traffic session, so there's a lot of good information on there if you're curious and you're curious about some of the decisions that have been made over the past year or years. There's also, as Michael stated, we held the forum last year. There's a lot of good information in there because a lot of these same questions come up year in and year out, some of the same questions. A lot of them are legal questions or feasibility questions. In that dedicated meeting to traffic, a lot of these things are covered. If you go on the website and there's a section in there in traffic, and you can drop down and you'll be able to click on that conversation and see it. It's either on YouTube or Granicus, and you'll be able to, and we'll post it again, may be able to answer many of the questions that members of the community may have. We're going to do the best we can. I appreciate your time, and welcome back.
Thank you, Kirk. Thank you for that very detailed and comprehensive discussion. Obviously, a lot going on, and a lot of good things to report there. Patricia, bring us up to date on undergrounding, and as we approach the finish line.
Right. Patricia Strayer. I've been with the town 10 years. I've been working on undergrounding for probably 9.5 of those 10 years. I put this slide up because the town has had a plan, and we've implemented the plan. With the master plan, we developed a phasing plan. And the great thing about this phasing plan is you can see that the dates of each phase that was supposed to start. And for the most part, the phases have started on schedule. The first phase in the far north end started in 2017 and was completed in 2019. We started the last phase, phase 8, in 2024. I expect it will be finished in spring. I just got a call on my phone. Sorry about that. We'll finish that spring of 2027. This is my favorite slide right now because it shows all of the green areas are the phases that have been completed. And the poles, as of Saturday this week, the poles will be down in all of those green areas. Midtown, the goal this year was to get all the poles in Midtown done by November 1st. We're a week late. All the poles, hopefully, if nothing goes wrong this week, will be down by this Saturday. The 4 phases that remain, 2 of those phases, phase 6, just south of Royal Poinciana, all of the power, FPL, has been converted to underground, but because ATT came and met with me and Kirk in April and they want to do fiber, we're holding up on that phase while we put in some extra conduit for fiber, but you'll see that phase completed next summer. Phase 7 north, the yellow that's to the far north of the town, that phase is essentially complete as well with FPL connections to underground. But we're doing the fiber conduits, and you will also see those poles come down next summer. And then the only 2 phases that will have poles remaining and will come down the year after will be 7 South and 8, and they're adjoining each other. What's neat about this is it talks about how many miles of lines that have been put underground and how many pieces of equipment that have been put in the town. FPL will tell you this is the largest undergrounding project they've done in the state of Florida, and they've not actually done it. They've designed their part. The town has taken the forefront of doing the construction. We are doing it faster and more efficiently than any other project in the town. And, you know, when we finish, we'll be maybe a year late in completion. And I could go into a number of different reasons for that. One of the things that with all the equipment that we've put, all of the easements that we secured for undergrounding have been 100% voluntary. And that's a tremendous effort and cooperation with all the residents in the town. And to be able to do that in a fully built-out community. And then in some areas, we've had to use the right-of-way where you have grass strip between the sidewalk and the curb. And, you know, most of the places where we end up using the right-of-way is because the home property is only 50 feet wide. But one of the things, and I'm going to digress a little bit and talk about easements, one of the things that Town Council committed to when we started this process is if you voluntarily provide an easement for above-ground equipment for undergrounding, the town would take it upon ourselves to abandon that easement, your rear easement, 2.5-foot rear easement, if there was no gas, no water or sewer remaining in those easements, or even in a couple of cases, there was still a service from FPL, ATT, or Comcast. So we're doing that for all the residents that have voluntarily provided an easement. So we're coming up on, now that we have 5 phases that we haven't done that process for, and the poles have just recently been completed with pulling down and the as-built are done. We're getting ready to go to Town Council in the next 3 or 4 months with phase 3, 4, and 5 South, and 5 and 6 North. But it's an opportunity for any resident that lives in that area that, regardless of whether you gave an easement, to submit the right information to us, and we will include your property in the advertisement, and we'll include your property in the mail out to the 300 residents. When you do this process, this abandonment process, you have to notify everybody within 300 feet of your property, and you have to do an advertisement in the newspaper. Those 2 things we will do for you, and we will not charge you I think it's a little over $1,000 fee. But what I've done is there's a handout at the desk that you passed as you came in, and there's a memo on the front that describes the process, and then there's the form that you need to submit. But also, there's the contact information for each of the utilities that you need to get to agree to the form. So we're giving you the information for how to expedite this from a private property perspective. And then we give you an example. Every property, because the easement runs with the private property, you'll have to do a survey to show exactly where that easement is so that we can record once it's abandoned, once we go to a public hearing and abandon all of these easements. It needs to be recorded so that any time if you were to sell your property or any future owner would understand that that easement is no longer associated with your property. So that's why you need this specific, site-specific survey. But there's an opportunity right now because we have 5 phases that we're going to go and do this with in the next 4 or 5 months. So please pick up the form. And Craig Hochschild works for me, and he has his contact information at the bottom of the letter. He's extraordinarily helpful and can give you answer any questions you might have. These are fun pictures because you can see in Midtown where the poles have actually come down, and this is close to the Colony Hotel, looking south of before and after, is at Woods Road on County, looking north, and you can see the before and after. This is pulling a pole on County just north of Royal Palm Way. And this was done 2 weeks ago. And these guys, and you know, I've had phone calls, but people worried about how FPL is going to pull the pole from your backyard. They set up a crane, they reach over your house, they pull that pole, and then they plop it down on a flatbed truck. And I should knock on wood, but out of all of the areas that they've pulled poles, we've not had one single incident. And it's, you know, we're very close. The project should end. That's it. So mine was a lot more fun than Kirk's.
And the forms for getting the easement back are out in front on the desk there.
Good
Joanne?
morning. Great to be with you. Joanne O'Connor, town attorney for the last about 2 years, but I've been working for the town on litigation matters for more than 20 years at my firm, Jones Foster. This morning, I'm just going to touch base on where we are on some legislative updates for the town, tackling the issue of vessel anchoring and mooring. And first, I just wanted to start because I want to make sure everybody understands the jurisdictional limits of the town. The town's jurisdiction covers all waters east of the center line of the Intercoastal Waterway Channel between us and West Palm, but that's not the middle of the water body. The channel actually runs down the west side of the waterway. So when you look out and see all those sailboats, even if you're on the West Palm Beach side of the bridge and you see all, like my office is, and see all those sailboats, the overwhelming number of them are in our jurisdiction. And so I just have some of those maps here so that you can see how far west our jurisdictional boundaries, and this is starting from the north, from the Lake Worth Inlet down to Flagler Bridge. And then here between the two bridges. And just as we move south, Southern Boulevard to Royal Park, again, you can see how wide how far west the jurisdictional limits extend. And all the way down to the southern town limit. And so a number of the issues that we've confronted, we're just going to touch base on those. And we're not alone. These are issues that municipalities like us, all the way down to Miami Beach, are dealing with. So one of them is derelict vessels. And when we talk about derelict vessels, there's derelict and vessels at risk of becoming derelict. And there's Florida statutory guidelines that address and define what it means to be derelict. And so just briefly, to touch upon those, they're defined by Florida law. A derelict vessel is one that's wrecked, junked, or in a substantially dismantled condition. Wrecked vessels are sunk or sinking, junked or substantially stripped of their components. Substantially dismantled means you've got 2 out of 3 of the critical systems on the vessel are missing or broken, like steering, propulsion, or the exterior hull. And so Florida law does provide a process, and the FWC, the Fish and Wildlife Commission, through the state of Florida, does have some state funds available, but they're frankly few and far between, and the costs to remove derelict vessels, even if you can establish that they're derelict, are significant. It can range from $20,000 to $25,000 plus fees. And it can be very difficult. So a small vessel maybe could be towed and trailered by using equipment that the town police department has, but larger vessels might require being cut into pieces and put on a full-size barge with an operational crane. So as we talk about these, and next I want to talk about vessels at risk of becoming derelict, you can see like it's helpful for the town to kind of get ahead of this, right? We want to get ahead of the process before vessels become derelict or at risk of becoming derelict. Again, there's a state statute that addresses when a vessel is at risk of becoming derelict. Those are things like it's broken or breaking loose from an anchor, it's taking on water, it's listing because of water. And there's a process under Florida law to cite the owner and get them to fix the boat, but a lot of times these are owners who don't have the resources to do that, and the state of Florida has actually adopted a Florida vessel turn-in program that would allow owners to take advantage of that and turn in their vessel and obtain state resources for its removal. But a number of these are just abandoned as well. So a couple other problems that we've been dealing with out in the lagoon are illegal moorings. So there's over 100 moorings in our jurisdictional limits. Only one of them is properly permitted from the state of Florida. There's illegal mooring balls. And so the legislative session, as Chairman Pusillo mentioned, that ended in the spring, really helped municipalities in one way, constrained municipalities in another way. And I don't have a slide for it, but at the end of the session, the legislature adopted the Florida Boater Freedom Law, and that went into effect as of July 1st. And that really limits traditional marine law enforcement, and I'll tell you why. So it used to be that our PD, our marine enforcement, was able to conduct random safety inspections as well as random marine sanitation checks. So they could go out and board a vessel and try to determine if these vessels that you see are disposing of waste and sewage into the water as opposed to coming in and using a pump out station. But as of July 1st, those officers have to have probable cause. And the marine sanitation check needs to be a secondary offense to something else that the officer observes. So there's really been a limitation on what our officers can do in terms of going out and determining whether some of these vessels in poor condition, and even some of the ones that aren't in poor condition, but are anchoring out in our waterways for a long period of time without following proper marine sanitation protocol. And so we had that constraint, but then we also had some assistance from the legislature, and that was with HB 481. And this is a bill that removed longstanding state preemption, meaning the state was constraining what municipalities could do. And so under HB 481, the law expands our ability, the ability of local authority over anchoring vessels in Florida's most populous counties, and that includes Palm Beach County. So any county that had 1.5 million people or more can adopt certain regulations on anchoring our vessels. And of course, the municipalities within those counties, and we're one of those in Palm Beach County. And it gives municipalities the power to address some of these navigational safety issues, congestion in our waterways and environmental impacts, and to preserve the scenic and residential character of our waterfront. And so the law, now part of Florida statutes, restricts vessels anchored for a period of 1 hour or more overnight, and overnight is defined as 30 minutes after sunset to 30 minutes before sunrise. Can't be anchored basically overnight for more than 30 days within any 6-month period. And so this allowed the town to adopt its own ordinance, and we are in the process. This ordinance was adopted in October on first reading, and it'll be before the town council next month on second reading and adoption. Town staff recommended the council amend its existing anchoring ordinances and establish a 30-night limit on overnight anchoring within any consecutive 6-month period in town waters, and to prohibit live-aboard vessels, houseboats, and certain commercial vessels from anchoring or mooring outside approved marinas, designated mooring fields, or private docks that have adequate facilities and sanitation services. There are certain exemptions consistent with the new state law. This doesn't apply to non-motorized small craft, to vessels less than 22 feet that don't have living quarters, vessels that are temporarily anchored because of an emergency condition or engaged in marine construction, that sort of thing. Our new ordinance authorizes enforcement measures, including fines, removal, towing, impoundment, and disposal. So that's anchoring. We've also initiated an amendment to address mooring. And mooring of vessels is governed by Florida laws and regulations. And so it is already under state law unlawful to moor to any unpermitted objects. It's also unlawful to place a mooring buoy without having a permit from the state. Municipal police officers are authorized to remove moorings in violation of state law. And so we have, as part of the ordinance that's before the town council for consideration, is to clarify our ordinances and make them consistent with state law and empower our police department to address the issue of unlawful moorings, to define mooring, and a mooring is different from using an anchor. It's when you secure the vessel to the bottom of the water or a structure other than by anchoring. A little picture there for those who are boaters. And again, there's exceptions here to the prohibition on mooring. A marina and designated mooring fields, we don't have a current designated mooring field at this time, but that would be an exception. Obviously, private residential docks equipped with potable running water supplies, approved toilet facilities, and regular garbage and solid waste collection. And I know our police department is here, and enforcement is for them. I can tell you, they've reported at council meetings that we have begun to remove vacant moorings that don't have any vessel attached. And the next stage would be, and maybe in process, sending out informational letters to hand out to vessel owners regarding our initiative. And at some point, there will come to a point where PD anticipates issuing warnings and citations and ultimately potentially removal. And so that's...
Okay. Joanne, thank you very much. Very informative. Bob, bring us up to date on the budget, the millage rate.
Good morning. Morning, everyone. Bob Miracle, Deputy Town Manager for Finance and Administration. Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you today. Today, I'm going to talk about some of the major highlights for the next year's budget, and then also talk about a couple of other items on the horizon that the town may have to deal with. As the mayor alluded to, and as well as what Patricia Strayer talked about, this slide is about infrastructure. And so first and foremost is the undergrounding project. The undergrounding project we are projecting will be a little over $140 million. The great news with this is that as town council had promised the residents early on, was that there would be no additional assessments. There would not be property tax increases because of this project. And so I'm happy to report that that is the case. What has happened is certainly since 2017, inflationary factors in the construction market certainly increased the amount of this project. And so with the marina coming on board, and kudos to the marina operation, they're going to be contributing over $30 million to make up for the difference in this project. And so that's how the undergrounding project will be paid for. Next is coastal. We are contributing $6.4 million in fiscal year 26 to the coastal fund. Two major projects that are going to be happening over the next couple years. One is the Midtown Beach Renourishment, which that is the majority of that is a federal project. The town only has to pay about $3 million of that $22 million project. And then the other one that we have been funding for numerous years now is the seawall replacement in Midtown. We are estimating that project to be at least $23 million. That is something that the town will have to pay for. And again, we've been building reserves so that we can pay for that and not issue debt. Then the last piece is the Capital Improvement Fund. The town in fiscal year 26 is contributing a little over $13 million in the Capital Improvement Fund. That funds a variety of different capital projects, from drainage projects, which I note there will be Clarendon Avenue, sanitary sewer projects, and Royal Ponciana and atriums will start next fiscal year, and then renovations to the police station and South Fire. And the other thing to note here is that with the undergrounding project, there's paving that happens after each phase is completed. That was not a part of the assessment for undergrounding, and so that is being paid for from the Capital Improvement Fund. That's going to be well over $20 million for all of the different phases as we do the repaving for each of those projects. Next, talk about new staffing for fiscal year 26. And as Mr. Blouin alluded to, one piece, is traffic. And so in the police department, we're going to be adding a total of 5 sworn officers for more patrols, and also to help try to mitigate a little bit more on the traffic side. The other area that we're adding 2 staff members is for police aides, which police aides are parking enforcement officers. But what has happened is over this last year is the police department, for those positions, they are receiving traffic certification. So now what they can do is they can be working in those intersections and trying to mitigate the traffic at high periods of time, and then also can take traffic reports, again, freeing up the police officers to do more patrols. The next position that we're adding is in the planning, zoning, and building department, and that is a civil project engineer. What has happened, and I think what you're going to be hearing from the PZB with Wayne and James, is that with the high level of building permits, construction that's happening on the island, is that we've been contracting out that work, and it's gotten to a point to where we can hire someone in-house that's going to provide better service. We're going to have a better response rate in getting out those permit requests, and then also we're going to save the town at least $100,000 in hiring that position. So that position will be starting this fiscal year. And then last but not least, the Phipps Ocean Park. The Phipps Ocean Park is a partnership with the Preservation Foundation. And so that park is not supposed to come online until the end of next fall. And so we have positions that are budgeted for 2 months, a crewman and 2 park attendants, as well as a police officer that will be down in the south end. So those are the new staffing positions that have been approved for this fiscal year. Next, I kind of want to talk about the future a little bit. And one comes from the state legislature, and then one from the feds. And I think as you've been coming back to town, this is going to be one of the major topics, and that is property taxes. And so I've got a few more slides to talk about that. But property tax changes, proposals coming out is going to be a big topic this year. And then the other thing is in regards to the federal government. They had announced before the storm season that this would be the last season that they might provide financial aid to governments in the event of a disaster. And so, and that's what I want to focus on this next slide, is just to kind of put that from a dollars perspective, is since 2004, and I listed all of the different storms, the town received a little over $25 million from the federal government, and that is for beach renourishment from the erosion from the storms to any type of property damage, those types of things. Over $25 million the town has received. If the federal government decides to no longer fund those storms, then that would fall on the town to pay for those costs. So just to kind of put a number to that. And then last but not least, property taxes. And since Halloween was last week, I thought I would name this Trick or Treat. And I think some of you would say that it's a trick, but also I would mention that it's also a treat, because I think with what is paid in town property taxes, the support that's given with the safety provided by police and fire, the trash pickup by Public Works, all of the coastal, all the capital projects, that it's a pretty good bang for your buck. And on this slide, this kind of shows, this is the town millage rate that's charged to residents. And I show this from 2016 through 2026. And so in 2016, it was 3.3779, and it's down to 2.6110, which is a 23% reduction in property tax, or in the millage rate, I'm sorry. For those who are homestead property owners, this means that during the 10 years, homestead property owners paid an increase per million of only $158 for 10 years. Now, as far as the county and the school district, I understand that's a different thing, but as far as what you're paying for in town services, $158 over 10 years. And then just on the whole property tax front and what potentially might be proposed, I listed here is what in the State House, the various bills that have been proposed, and it goes from draconian of we're just going to eliminate all property taxes, and then there's kind of a different type of phasing on property tax impacts. Also, the Senate, since I did this slide over the last week, I think they've submitted about three other bills. Now, the state legislature doesn't start until January, so these are the pre-filings of those bills. So there's a lot of discussion in regards to what and the goal is, from the State House's concern and from the governor's perspective, is to have something on the ballot for voters to decide statewide in November of next year. So just to kind of give you a property tax impact as to what that means from Town of Palm Beach perspective is in fiscal year 26, we're projecting to collect a little over $85 million. And so I listed there, here are all the budgets for all of the departments, or the major departments, that would equal that amount. And so if property taxes were eliminated, and that's the whole discussion, is that what hasn't been proposed yet is how do we make up the revenue? And you really have three things. You have property taxes, you have income tax, which we don't have, and you have sales tax. So the last thing is sales tax. And if that is the way that they would make up for property taxes, in my opinion, the concern is that then that goes through the state, and those revenues are going to be distributed to local governments. And usually when that happens through the state, it's by population. And we don't have a very large population, but the services that we provide are way greater than any other 10,000 municipality has in this state. And so that's a major, major concern. And so then we move away from home rule as well, because that will all be dictated by the state legislature. So those were just a few thoughts that I had in regards to property taxes. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you to the Civic Association for allowing the planning, zoning, and building staff to provide a very brief update on the zoning code review and reform activities. I'm Wayne Bergman. I'm the Director of Planning, Zoning, Building. I'm also the building official and the floodplain manager. And with me today is Assistant Director James Murphy. A little brief background. Our zoning code is about 50 years old. And the town council realized as soon as it was adopted, and we can tell this from the records, that there were things that did not work, things that worked well, and things that needed to be slightly changed. So the way the town did this in the past, for many decades, was to hire outside planning consultants to come in, review the code, look at the problems, and propose changes. They actually called this a zoning season every year. Town staff, town council would give the professionals the direction, and they would go out and prepare the studies and reports to recommend changes to fix the code. Unfortunately, very few of the proposed changes were ever adopted to actually fix the code. But the town council was very successful in adopting a patchwork of code changes over the last 45 years that added exceptions, prohibitions, exemptions, and conflicts within the code. These are scattered throughout the entire code. When we in our department say our zoning code is broken, that is exactly what we mean. The town council and the planning, zoning, and building department have been trying to update and improve the zoning code for the past several years. Many of you will remember about 4 years ago, we hired ZoneCo to assist us with our zoning code reform. Sean Suter was the owner and principal of ZoneCo, a firm based out of Cincinnati, Ohio, and they worked alongside staff here locally, the Planning and Zoning Commission and Town Council, trying to propose an updated code. In fact, in this exact room, Mr. Suter assisted us with a large-scale charrette 3 years ago, and he was even a guest speaker of the Civic Association 2 years ago. In November of last year, Mr. Suter, for ZoneCo, produced his final work product and presented it to the town, and it was a complete rewrite in his view of what our zoning code should look like. Our Planning and Zoning Commission took a pass, our town council took a pass, and at that moment, they directed staff to take the lead on code reform. The current zoning code is extremely detailed. It's very complex. It's a bit disorganized. Regulations for any single item that you may ask me about, let's say for maximum height of a building or required parking, I could not give you an answer very quickly because I would have to look at numerous areas of the code to find what would be allowed for you based on all the exceptions and exclusions and prohibitions. One of our first steps, as staff was tasked with this about 10 months ago, was to propose to reorganize the code to simplify the number of articles and sections, and also to analyze every single section and subsection, and I know there's over 2,200 of those that we looked at. And then we began grouping those individual sections and subsections in one general area with all subject matter combined, so it's easy to find in the future. There's many large-scale categories of the code that needs to be reviewed and refined. Single-family homes. The entire code reform exercise started as a request from North End residents to look at the size of the homes that were being built. The thought was that these homes were out of scale with the other homes on the street or in the neighborhood. Another category of area to look at were the multifamily buildings. The introduction of the new state milestone inspection program for condominiums and cooperatives, 3 stories or more in height, which is now in effect, made it painfully aware to me and to others that some of the existing buildings in town are prime candidates for replacement, reconstruction, demolition, etc. That hasn't happened here in 20 years, and our code really doesn't address well, based on what FEMA requires today, how to do that. So the multifamily code requires revisions and review in terms of building setbacks, lot coverage, FEMA regulations, and parking. And another final category is the commercial districts. We recognize our commercial code requires updates as commercial uses, bulk zoning regulations, and parking standards all appear in need of a revision. The current traffic problems discussed earlier by Mr. Blouin have also accelerated the need to update the commercial part of our code relative to uses and parking. So while our exercise started with a review of the North End home sizes, it really has become a full review of the code. Over the last 10 months, we've been working on some basic fixes to the code in an effort to start getting some quick fixes addressed. For years, James and I have been identifying and listing problems we see within the code for potential correction. Some of these are very quick and easy to do. Several months ago, we began taking the problematic code sections to the Planning and Zoning Commission and then to Town Council as what we called quick fixes. Staff identified the problems and possible solutions. We discussed the matters at public hearings. We drafted ordinance to effectuate the changes, had them reviewed by the town attorney, and asked the Town Council to adopt the changes. At this time, let me introduce James Murphy, the Assistant Director of PZB, to provide some details on these first few set of code revisions that we are very proud of.
Good morning. Thank you, Wayne. My name is James Murphy, and I want to first of all thank you for inviting me to join this panel. I work underneath Wayne Bergman, and primarily in the role of working in the planning, zoning, and the design division of our department. So I certainly know and hear and process the applications that are for building permits or for development review, quite honestly on the daily, as well as receive equally amount of neighbors concerned with what's being built next door to them. So happy to report that when we were tasked with this job, it was a little daunting at first, considering how busy our department is, with about 6,800 building permits, about 1,100 development review applications, and 1,600 business tax receipts. We certainly weren't sure if we had the time to become the new consultant for the code reform, but we certainly were up for the task. Working with the Planning and Zoning Commission, the Architectural Review Commission, and the Landmarks Preservation Commission, and of course, a supportive and engaged town council, we started to apply what we had been hearing from the residents, from the applicants, from our staff, and we applied something that may not have been applied for previously, some common sense. With that, we can happy to report we have 7 ordinances that have been passed by first and second reading by town council, and 2 more going to first reading to address uniformity, consistency, and amend outdated measures. First, we tackled these quick fixes: mechanical equipment on rooftops. For property owners that wanted to replace an air conditioner or a generator, because of the antiquated measurement system for these equipments, a variance was required. A variance to replace your AC equipment on your roof. Seems silly. Screening wall requirements. Our code requires that mechanical equipment, when it's on the ground, it be screened from your neighbors. Great idea. That screening wall had to be high enough to screen that equipment. Problem is, FEMA. FEMA required those critical mechanical systems to be elevated at a higher elevation as the years went on. So no longer can you get that generator or that AC and put it on the ground. You'll see them on stands or slabs at a higher and higher elevation. Important in a flood-prone community and a coastal barrier island. But the screening walls no longer can screen the equipment that our code requires. Therefore, we required applicants to obtain a variance. Our legal department will tell you that that is not very good best practice. Non-conforming lots. We removed an extra level of review for those structures built upon the very foundation of the town, the beloved C streets. All of these portions of the town are part of the historical platted lots that predate zoning, yet required another level of review to be blessed by town council, versus those larger homes that may have aggregated lots to bypass that requirement. The angle of vision, another zoning regulation in order to limit the amount of street presence that these newer homes may have. But the zoning requirement should have never applied to single-story structures, because I think everyone in this room could agree that a brand new single-story structure is always going to be far less impactful than a 2-story structure. And still others, we removed zoning regulations that just simply did not make logical sense. This also extended to our process. We corrected the town's process for appeals, our development orders, and extensions of time to give them a uniform duration. Again, uniformity and consistency that the patchwork code over the years that Mr. Bergman mentioned never looked comprehensively at. That is one thing we know for sure. It was quick to add code, but it never went back and removed those other sections that needed to be removed, nor did it reflect upon other chapters. So I'm not sure if the code is broken, but it certainly is bent. And the most important thing that we've passed is the Landmarks Preservation Commission zoning incentives and the floodplain notice. These were aimed at incentivizing these structures for the town's landmark program, with zoning adjustments and aid to streamline the review process for the town's landmark and historically significant building programs. I think we'd all agree that these landmark structures are the very DNA of this town. But there is still a lot to be done. The North End zoning districts, the commercial activity from small mom-and-pop shops to maybe those larger, more significant impacts that sat vacant or undeveloped, and the multifamily development south of Sloan's Curve with the 2024 Condo Milestone Act, with a zoning code for these buildings that has literally been unused for over 20 years. What I mean by that is the last new building was 20 years ago. There's approximately 50 buildings south of Sloan's Curve. 23 of them are condos that are greater than 3 stories in height, and 90% of them are over 40 years of age. These certainly will all be part of the more challenging tranche of zoning code amendments that we look to in the coming year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bergman. All right, we were a little bit behind schedule, but we've got time for a few questions, and I've got a number of them here. I'll try and move through them quickly. Quick question on either Bob or Kirk, the Midtown project that you referred to this winter, specifically what areas are going to get sand on that? Okay, Patricia?
Sure. The Midtown Beach Renourishment Project will go from Seminole down to Banyan.
Okay. Here's a question on a topic that was not discussed. It's a relatively new topic, but I'm sure a number of people have questions on it. Regards to the airport and the takeoff pattern of the planes. What is the town in a position to do about it? Does the town have a position? Is there anything you can do? Kirk, you want to
Sure.
try and handle that one?
So this came as much a surprise to our community and our mayor and council and the staff. There was no advance notice. It was just implemented. So traditionally, when the president's in town, they issue a TFR, temporary flight restriction, which restricts the airspace generally 1 nautical mile north and south of Mar-a-Lago. That's for security reasons. Much to our surprise, they enacted a new TFR, which is no longer temporary. It's permanent. They should make it permanent instead of... Anyway, so that's permanent. I think it was to October 25 of 2026 is what they announced. So the mayor, in consultation with the members of the town council, and we received a lot of complaints from the community, essentially objecting to quality of life issues, pollution, noise primarily, new flight pattern. Most of it's fanning north, so it's flying over our residences from Midtown to the north end now as they're fanning out through our community. And it's not just the town of Palm Beach, it's residents from West Palm Beach as well that are experiencing these new traffic patterns. We just trying to establish communication. So the mayor enlisted help from our representatives, Congresswoman Frankel and Senators Bobbie and Scott. We've received no communication from them at this time, but it's more recent. The mayor also sent a letter to the president as well, to the Secret Service and to the FAA, essentially asking for communication, establish some transparency as to why this decision was made. Give us some information. Absent the vacuum, we're all speculating and surmising as to why this needs to be a permanent flight restriction. So there is a meeting today at the airport. I think it starts at 6 o'clock. And that's the noise abatement committee that Mr. Crampton sits on, and also another member of our community. I think Marty Klein is on that as well. I will be there as well to state and the mayor to state our objections again, and hopefully we get a response. We need the first step is get some communication. That's what we did last time with the Secret Service. There was a little bit of a vacuum there for a while, and then eventually we were able to establish communication. We were able to come to something reasonable. Maybe this is reasonable in all honesty, but they need to communicate that to the residents. The residents should know. They should give us some level of communication as to why. So that's the town's response at this time. Obviously, we don't have control over the FAA and the federal government, but we don't generally. That communication comes from the Secret Service and the advance team, which generally members of the military and Secret Service, in communication with the FAA, and that's how the TFRs are generally established. In our communication with Secret Service, which is limited on this topic, we can't determine or ascertain where this direction is coming from. It could be coming directly from the White House, or it could be coming from the Secret Service, but we don't know at this point. As soon as we know where that direction is coming from, then maybe we can establish some real communication.
Okay, thank you. Couple of quick questions for Bobbie on water. I'll combine them. When can Palm Beach get membrane technology for its water supply? I think I know the answer to that one. And of the 10 million gallons that we use a day, is some of that for lawn irrigation? The answer is yes. And is there a focus on recycled water for lawns?
Okay, let me take the easy one first. Yes, yes, indeed. There is, as you just said, focusing on, let's see, membrane technology, yeah. What the recycled water, look, the easiest thing you can do if, we don't have any mechanism, or anyone I know of yet, to take gray water, you know, water that goes down your sink, and turn it into water that you could place on your lawns. You know, irrigation is included in the 10 million gallons, and I'll even go beyond it to say that probably over 65% of the water we use in town, we're throwing on our gardens and landscapes. So, and any, you know, when we do go to a membrane technology system, the cost of the water will be higher, of course, than it is today. And we should be thinking about how we build new properties and what we do to take rainwater, which we get more than most places in the country, 59 inches a year. And there's one local gentleman who has an amazing cistern that he put in, believe it or not, in 1989, and he loves to show me his water bill, which is next to nothing. But you know, somebody who's building a new home can easily put in a cistern underneath that home that will collect and be able to pump to all of your irrigation needs if it's big enough. Now, not a rain barrel might water your orchids, but it's not going to be enough. So I think I've answered that one, and it's really going to be up to us in the near term, I think, to do individual cisterns underneath new construction, or a new addition, perhaps, at your house. The other one, I think, is very, you know, how soon can Palm Beach get membrane technology for its water supply? If I only knew the answer. We've stated that we're united in staff and your electeds that we'd like to have a membrane technology system. It's really, truthfully, the only way to go in the future. If we were to start today and we had somebody to pick, I mean, it would still be a years-long process. We have a lot of old equipment and pipes in the ground, and if we, you know, some of those are going to have to be replaced anyway. I think there's miles of, I believe we've studied this, there's miles of piping that exists in the ground that are soon to be the majority of over 70 years old. And so all of that equipment eventually has to be replaced. And most of the, you know, we're not alone. Most of the systems in this country are all post-World War II water systems, and everybody's sort of in the same position. Unless you're building a new town, you've got old infrastructure that has to be replaced. So it's a years-long process, is all I can say, and that's if it's a high priority and not being phased in with blended water or something like that. It would still be years.
Thank you. I got one more question with respect to construction. Will construction by FDOT continue all season, or are there in fact restrictions on road construction between Thanksgiving and Easter? Who wants to take that one?
I didn't fully hear. I heard the construction in the season, the restrictions on Thanksgiving?
No, between Thanksgiving and Easter, road construction by FDOT.
DOT.
Tricia?
DOT has committed to stop construction from Southern to Royal Palm November 14th. So they'll stop until after Easter, is my understanding.
Okay.
So that was a present to us. And then from Sloan's Curve south, or actually Ibis Isle south, they will continue that construction throughout the season.
Okay. Thank you. Since we're out of time here, just a couple of questions which really aren't questions, they're really suggestions, so I'm just going to read them. Residents of South Ocean at Chilean observe drivers going down the wrong way on Chilean. Perhaps we need some more signs. Here's a suggestion, make Sunrise two ways now and move traffic on Brazilian back to the two ways and add 2 lanes to County Road. And finally, Bob Miracle, this resident thinks that we need more than 2 permits allowed per household for parking stickers. We're about 7 minutes over, and I see Mary looming over me. So thank you very much to all our panelists for your insight and information. This was great. We really appreciate your coming today. And thank you all for coming.